The city pulsed with life, its streets a tapestry of hurried footsteps and distant sirens. Amidst the urban symphony, Sarah Williams navigated her way through the bustling crowd, a sense of purpose in her stride. The sun cast a warm glow on the towering buildings, reflecting off the glass facades and adding a sparkle to the summer day. Sarah, a marketing executive in her early 30s, was the embodiment of ambition. Her days were meticulously organized, every minute accounted for as she juggled her demanding job and personal life. Yet amidst the chaos, she always made time for her best friend, Emma Johnson. Their bond was a sanctuary, a place where both could find solace and understanding. Emma's studio was a stark contrast to Sarah's corporate world. The lot was filled with vibrant colors, eclectic artwork, and the faint smell of turpentine. Emma, a freelance graphic designer, thrived in this creative chaos. Her free-spirited nature and artistic flair made her a magnet for inspiration. Today, however, a shadow seemed to hang over her usually bright demeanor. "Hey, you!" Sarah called out, stepping into the studio with a smile. "Got time for a quick coffee?" Emma looked up from her canvas, her expression a mix of surprise and relief. "Sarah, always have time for you. Just let me clean up a bit." Minutes later, they were seated in their favorite corner of a nearby cafe, the aroma of freshly brewed coffee mingling with the hum of conversations around them. Sarah took a sip of her latte, savoring the moment of calm. "You've been quiet lately, Em? Everything okay?" Sarah's tone was gentle, laced with genuine concern. Emma hesitated, her fingers tracing the rim of her coffee cup. "Yeah, just a lot on my mind with work and all," she replied, forcing a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. Sarah noticed the subtle shift, but chose not to press further. Instead, she shared updates about her own hectic week, hoping to lighten Emma's spirits. They laughed and reminisced, temporarily pushing aside the unspoken tension. Later that evening, Sarah found herself in the warm embrace of her boyfriend, Michael Brown. They had planned a quiet dinner at her apartment, a rare moment of tranquility in their busy lives. Michael, a financial analyst, was charming and persuasive, his charisma a perfect complement to Sarah's driven nature. "You look beautiful tonight," Michael whispered, brushing a strand of hair from Sarah's face. His touch was gentle, his eyes filled with affection. Sarah smiled, her worries from earlier fading away. "Thank you. I've missed you this week." As they enjoyed their meal, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. Michael's phone buzzed repeatedly, each notification pulling him away from their conversation. He dismissed it with a casual, "just work stuff," but Sarah's curiosity was piqued. The next morning, Sarah and Emma met again, this time at Emma's studio. The vibrant colors and eclectic artwork seemed to lift Emma's spirits, her laughter more genuine as they worked on a small project together. "Michael seems distracted lately," Sarah mentioned offhandedly, her voice tinged with mild frustration. "It's probably just work, but I can't help feeling like there's something he's not telling me." Emma's smile faltered for a split second, a fleeting moment that went unnoticed by Sarah. "I'm sure it's nothing," Emma said, her tone a touch too casual. "You know how demanding his job can be." The rest of the day passed in a blur of colors and creativity, the earlier tension dissipating in the joy of their shared passion. Yet, as Sarah left the studio that evening, a nagging feeling of unease lingered. Meanwhile, Michael's day was a whirlwind of numbers and negotiations, his mind constantly racing. As the day drew to a close, he couldn't shake the guilt gnawing at him. He knew he was playing a dangerous game, one that could shatter the fragile balance of his relationships. In the weeks that followed, the subtle shifts in their interactions became more pronounced. Michael's late nights and secretive behavior, Emma's uncharacteristic distance, and Sarah's growing suspicion all wove together, creating an undercurrent of tension that none could ignore. The calm before the storm was deceptive, a serene facade hiding the brewing tempest. As the city lights flickered on, casting long shadows on the streets below, the lives of Sarah, Emma, Michael, and Alex were about to be irrevocably changed. The storm was coming, and with it, the truths that would turn their world upside down. The late afternoon sun cast long golden shadows across Sarah's apartment as she prepared dinner. The familiar sounds of the city below provided a comforting backdrop to her thoughts. She hummed softly to herself, trying to shake off the nagging feeling that had been haunting her for weeks. Just as she was setting the table, Michael walked in, his face lit by the screen of his buzzing phone. Sarah's heart sank a little. He had promised to leave work behind tonight. "Hey, you," she greeted him with a forced smile, trying to keep the disappointment out of her voice. Michael looked up, slightly startled. "Hey, sorry about that. Just finishing up a few things." He quickly silenced his phone and slipped it into his pocket. They sat down to eat, the clinking of silverware and the murmur of their conversation filling the space. But something felt off. Michael was distracted, his eyes flickering to his pocket every few minutes. Finally, Sarah couldn't hold back any longer. "Michael, is everything okay? You've been so preoccupied lately. It's like you're here, but you're not really present." Michael sighed, running a hand through his hair. "I'm sorry, Sarah. Work has been really intense. I promise I'll make it up to you." Sarah wanted to believe him, but the gnawing doubt in her chest wouldn't let her rest. Ere dinner, while Michael was in the shower, his phone buzzed again. She glanced at it, intending to ignore it, but the name on the screen caught her eye: Emma. Her heart raced as she picked up the phone, hesitating for a moment before unlocking it. The message preview read, "Can't wait to see you again." Sarah's blood ran cold. With shaking hands, she scrolled through their conversation, each message more incriminating than the last. When Michael emerged from the shower, Sarah was sitting on the couch, his phone in her hand, tears streaming down her face. "What the hell is this, Michael?" she demanded, her voice breaking. Michael froze, his face paling. "Sarah, I can explain." "Explain! How do you explain months of lying and cheating with my best friend?" she shouted, her anger boiling over. Michael tried to reach for her, but she recoiled. "Don't touch me! Just get out! I can't even look at you right now." The door slammed behind him, leaving Sarah alone with her shattered trust and broken heart. She sank to the floor, sobbing uncontrollably. The next day, Sarah confronted Emma at the cafe, the place where they had shared so many laughs and secrets. The air was thick with tension as Sarah sat down, her eyes red and puffy from crying. Emma looked up, her expression shifting from surprise to guilt. "Sarah, what's wrong?" "You know exactly what's wrong," Sarah spat, throwing Michael's phone onto the table. "I saw the messages, Emma. How could you?" Emma's face crumpled, tears welling in her eyes. "I'm so sorry, Sarah. I never meant for it to happen. It just did." "You just happened to fall into bed with my boyfriend?" Sarah's voice was filled with bitterness and betrayal. "It wasn't like that," Emma pleaded. "I was feeling so alone, and Michael was there for me. I know it's no excuse, but I never wanted to hurt you." Sarah's eyes blazed with anger. "You were my best friend. You knew how much he meant to me, and you still did this." The cafe seemed to fade away as the two women faced each other, the weight of their shared history pressing down on them. Emma reached out, but Sarah pulled back, her heart too raw to accept any comfort. "I can't do this right now, Emma," Sarah whispered, standing up. "I need time. I need space." She walked away, leaving Emma sobbing at the table. The betrayal cut deep, severing the bond they had built over years of friendship. That evening, Sarah found herself back in her apartment, the silence deafening. She looked around at the remnants of her life with Michael, each memory tainted by his betrayal. She picked up a framed photo of them from a happier time and hurled it across the room, the glass shattering into a million pieces. As she sank onto the couch, exhausted and emotionally drained, she realized that her life would never be the same. The trust she had once cherished was gone, replaced by a void of uncertainty and pain. Meanwhile, Emma sat alone in her studio, surrounded by her vibrant artwork that now felt like a cruel mockery of her shattered world. She replayed the confrontation in her mind, the look of betrayal in Sarah's eyes haunting her. Emma knew she had to find a way to make things right, but the path to redemption seemed impossibly steep. The storm had arrived, and its aftermath left both women adrift in a sea of hurt and regret. The sun set behind the city skyline, casting long shadows across the streets as Sarah sat alone in her apartment, the remnants of her shattered life strewn around her. Her phone buzzed with a new message, but she ignored it, unwilling to face anyone. The betrayal by Michael and Emma had left her numb, her heart a cold, hollow shell. Alex Turner, her close friend and the group's pragmatic mediator, couldn't stand by any longer. He had been friends with both Sarah and Emma for years, and seeing them torn apart was too much to bear. He decided it was time to step in and try to mend the broken pieces. Alex knocked on Sarah's door, his expression a mix of concern and determination. After a few moments, Sarah opened the door, her eyes red from crying. "Alex, I really don't want to see anyone right now," Sarah said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I know, Sarah, but you need to talk to someone. Let me in, please," Alex pleaded gently. Reluctantly, Sarah stepped aside, letting Alex into the dimly lit apartment. He took in the sight of the broken photo frame, the scattered belongings, and the palpable sadness that filled the space. "I'm sorry, Sarah," Alex began, sitting down on the couch. "I can't imagine how much this hurts, but shutting yourself off won't make it any better." Sarah sank into the armchair opposite him, wrapping her arms around herself as if trying to hold herself together. "I just don't know what to do, Alex. Everything I believed in is gone." "You need to talk to Emma," Alex said softly. "She's just as devastated as you are. You both need to find a way to move forward, whether that's together or apart." Sarah's eyes flashed with anger. "How can you even suggest that I talk to her? She betrayed me, Alex. She knew how much Michael meant to me." "I know, and I'm not saying you should forgive her right away, but you need to hear her out. Holding on to this anger will only consume you," Alex replied, his tone firm but compassionate. After a long silence, Sarah nodded slowly. "Maybe you're right, but I need time." Alex gave her a reassuring smile. "Take all the time you need. Just know that I'm here for you, no matter what." While Sarah grappled with her emotions, Emma was in her studio, surrounded by unfinished artwork and the weight of her guilt. She couldn't escape the image of Sarah's tear-streaked face. The pain in her eyes clung deeper than any words could. Emma knew she had to try and make things right, but she didn't know where to start. She picked up her phone, her hands trembling as she dialed Alex's number. "Alex, I don't know what to do." Emma's voice cracked with desperation. "Sarah hates me, and I can't blame her. But I can't live with this guilt." Alex sighed, feeling the weight of the situation. "Emma, you need to give Sarah some space, but you also need to be ready to explain your side when she's ready to listen. You can't force forgiveness, but you can show that you're truly sorry." "I just don't know if she'll ever be able to forgive me," Emma whispered, tears streaming down her face. "Give it time, Emma, and be patient. If your friendship is meant to survive this, it will. But it will take effort from both of you," Alex advised gently. Days turned into weeks, and the initial shock of the betrayal began to seal into a dull ache. Sarah focused on her work, burying herself in projects to avoid thinking about Michael and Emma. But no matter how hard she tried, the pain lingered, a constant reminder of what she had lost. One evening, Sarah received a text from Alex. "Can we meet? There's something we need to talk about." Curiosity and apprehension warred within her as she agreed to meet him at a nearby park. The air was crisp, the autumn leaves crunching underfoot as she walked to their meeting spot. Alex was already there, a look of concern etched on his face. "Thanks for coming, Sarah. I know it's hard, but there's something you need to know." "What is it, Alex?" Sarah asked, her voice tinged with unease. "Emma's been digging into Michael's behavior. She thinks there's more to his actions than just the affair. She found some things that might explain why he did what he did," Alex explained, handing her a folder. Sarah took the folder, her hands shaking as she opened it. Inside were emails, messages, and notes that painted a picture of Michael's manipulative tactics. He had been playing both women, using their vulnerabilities for his own gain. The details were chilling. Michael had targeted Emma during a period of self-doubt and loneliness, using flattery and attention to make her feel special. He had played on her insecurities about her career, subtly undermining her confidence while making himself appear indispensable. For Sarah, Michael had been more strategic. He had gradually isolated her from her friends, including Emma, by planting seeds of doubt and jealousy. He often fabricated stories about Emma's supposed feelings for him, creating a wedge between the two women. Whenever Sarah confronted him about his behavior, he would gaslight her, making her feel irrational and overly suspicious. "He was using us," Sarah whispered, her anger flaring anew. "He never cared about either of us." "I think you and Emma need to confront him together," Alex suggested. "You deserve answers, and he needs to face the consequences of his actions." Sarah nodded, a steely resolve in her eyes. "You're right. We need to do this." The next day, Sarah and Emma met at the park, the tension between them palpable. They exchanged awkward greetings, both unsure of how to start the conversation. "Sarah, I'm so sorry for everything," Emma began, her voice trembling. "I never wanted to hurt you, but I think we need to face Michael together. He's been manipulating us both." Sarah took a deep breath, her anger mingling with a newfound sense of purpose. "You're right. Let's do this." As they approached Michael's apartment, the air was thick with anticipation. Michael opened the door, his face a mask of surprise and guilt when he saw them together. "We know what you've been doing, Michael," Sarah said, her voice cold and determined. "You've been manipulating us, using our friendship against us." Michael tried to feign innocence, but the evidence was overwhelming. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Don't lie to us," Emma interjected, her voice filled with anger. "We have proof. You've been playing us both, and we won't let you get away with it." Realizing he was cornered, Michael's demeanor shifted from defensive to menacing. "Fine. So what if I did? You were both so easy to manipulate, always so desperate for attention and validation." Sarah's eyes blazed with fury. "You're a monster, but we're done being your victims. You're going to pay for what you've done." As they turned to leave, Michael made one last desperate attempt to regain control. "You'll never be able to prove anything. It's your word against mine." Sarah looked back, her expression resolute. "We have enough to make sure everyone knows who you really are." The confrontation ended, leaving Michael to stew in his own malevolence. Sarah and Emma walked away, the bond between them slowly mending in the wake of their shared ordeal. As they sat on a park bench, the cool breeze carrying away the remnants of their anger, Sarah turned to Emma. "I'm still angry, and it's going to take time to heal, but I'm glad we faced him together." Emma nodded, her eyes filled with gratitude. "Thank you, Sarah. I promise I'll do everything to make it right." The next few weeks were a whirlwind of emotions as Sarah and Emma worked on rebuilding their friendship. They spent hours talking, crying, and laughing, rediscovering the trust that had once defined their bond. One evening, Sarah found herself at Emma's studio, the vibrant artwork a stark contrast to the emotional chaos they had endured. As they sipped wine and reminisced about better times, Emma's phone buzzed with a new message. "Who's that?" Sarah asked, curiosity piqued. Emma glanced at her phone, her eyes widening in surprise. "It's from an unknown number. It says, 'There's more you don't know about Michael. Meet me tomorrow at noon.'" Sarah's heart skipped a beat. "Do you think it's another of his games?" Emma shook her head, her expression serious. "I don't know, but we need to find out." The next day, they arrived at the designated meeting spot, a secluded corner of a bustling park. A figure approached them, cloaked in anonymity and wearing a hat that cast shadows over their face. "Are you Sarah and Emma?" the figure asked, their voice low and urgent. "Yes," Sarah replied cautiously. "Who are you?" The figure removed their hat, revealing a woman with piercing eyes and a determined expression. "My name is Lisa. I was involved with Michael years ago. He did the same thing to me." Emma's eyes widened in shock. "He manipulated you too?" Lisa nodded. "He's a master manipulator, a serial abuser. I couldn't let him ruin any more lives. I have proof of his past, and I'm willing to help you expose him." As Lisa handed them a folder filled with documents and evidence, Sarah and Emma realized the full extent of Michael's deceit. The storm had passed, but the journey to uncovering the truth had only just begun. They looked at each other, a new resolve forming in their eyes. Together, they would bring Michael to justice and ensure he could never hurt anyone else again. The sun rose over the city, casting a soft golden glow on the skyline. Sarah stood by her apartment window, gazing out at the bustling streets below. The revelations from the previous weeks had left her emotionally drained but also resolute. She knew what needed to be done. Sarah and Emma met Lisa at a quiet cafe, their faces a mix of determination and apprehension. The evidence Lisa had provided was damning, painting a clear picture of Michael's manipulative behavior over the years. They had the power to stop him, but it wouldn't be easy. "Thank you for meeting us, Lisa," Sarah said, her voice steady. "We need to make sure Michael can't hurt anyone else." Lisa nodded, her expression grim. "I've contacted a lawyer who specializes in cases like this. With the evidence we have, we can build a strong case against him." Emma's eyes sparkled with a mix of hope and anger. "We need to make sure he faces the consequences of his actions. No more hiding, no more manipulating." As they discussed their next steps, the bond between Sarah and Emma continued to mend. They found solace in their shared mission, the healing process bringing them closer than ever before. That evening, Sarah and Emma sat in Sarah's apartment, going through the documents Lisa had given them. The air was thick with the weight of their task, but a sense of purpose kept them focused. "I can't believe he got away with this for so long," Sarah muttered, shaking her head in disbelief. Emma sighed, her eyes filled with determination. "He won't get away with it anymore. We'll make sure of that." As the weeks passed, their case against Michael grew stronger. They gathered statements from other victims, each story adding to the mountain of evidence against him. Sarah and Emma found themselves navigating the complexities of the legal system, their bond strengthening with each hurdle they overcame. One afternoon, Sarah received a call from the lawyer. "We have enough to move forward with the case," the lawyer said. "Michael won't be able to escape this time." The relief that washed over Sarah was palpable. She hung up the phone and turned to Emma, a triumphant smile on her face. "We're going to get him." One evening, as Sarah and Emma walked through the park, the cool breeze carrying the scent of autumn, they reflected on their journey. "It's finally over," Sarah said, a sense of peace settling over her. Emma nodded, her eyes glistening with tears. "We did it, Sarah. We stopped him." Their friendship, once shattered, had been reforged in the fires of their shared struggle. They had faced their darkest moments and emerged stronger, united in their quest for justice. As they sat on a bench, watching the sunset paint the sky in hues of orange and pink, Sarah turned to Emma. "I'm still angry about what happened, but I'm ready to move forward. We've been through too much to let this define us." Emma smiled, a tear slipping down her cheek. "Thank you, Sarah. I promise I'll never take our friendship for granted again." They embraced, the weight of the past lifting as they looked toward the future. The scars of betrayal would always be there, but they had found a way to heal together. Just as everything seemed to be settling, Sarah received an anonymous letter in the mail. Her heart pounded as she opened it, her eyes scanning the handwritten note. "There's more you don't know about Michael. Be careful." Sarah's hands trembled as she read the words. "Emma, look at this." Emma's eyes widened as she read the note. "What do you think it means?" "I don't know, but we need to find out," Sarah said, a new resolve forming in her eyes. Their journey was far from over. The storm had passed, but the road ahead was still filled with uncertainties. Together, they would face whatever came next, their friendship stronger than ever. As they walked away from the park, the sunset casting long shadows on the path ahead, Sarah and Emma knew that no matter what challenges lay ahead, they would face them together. Their bond, tested and strengthened by adversity, would guide them through whatever twists and turns the future held.